Me and Kevin Gown and this is.
We're gonna get started with the alumni panel, everyone. If you haven't already, you can register to become an ACM member at this link. We have 7 meetings, and you go to the banquet that's coming up here at the end of April. And then this is the sign QR code to check in to get said membership points. But you can also go to portal.acmusa.org and check in there. And then, what is ACM-W? We are into promoting women in tech. We have different social, professional development opportunities and networking events. And today we're going the alumni panel, which is going to be hosted by some of our amazing junior officers.
That's us! That's us! I'm Vivian, and this is Reese.
Hello.
We're both part of ACM-W. Yes. All right. Okay. So, you guys want to get questions? Questions? Y'all ready? You guys ready? Okay. Yeah.
All right. When do you think is the best time to look for career opportunities? Oh. I like forgot. I was like, Leo, let's get right into it. I'm sorry. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves? And should I pass this mic around?
Sure. I'm Gene Tigner. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton, military industrial complex. Don't sell your soul. But no, it's okay. It's good. I've graduated in 2020 from UTSA. I was the previous social chair from 2019 to 2020. Kind of sucked to be the social chair around that time, as you guys know, for COVID. So we tried to do a lot of virtual stuff around that time after the fact, and like nobody showed up to anything. I held a movie night. I was the only one there streaming a movie on Discord. Like, I can't remember.
You created the Discord.
Oh yeah.
So that Discord and I like really advocate for people to get over to it because everybody was on Slack. I was like, Discord for social. Come on. Like anyway. But yeah, I've been working for Booz Allen for about 3 years now. I started as an intern there, 2018 to 2019 timeframe. But yeah, that's the thing.
I haven't invented this course, so I don't know. But I'm Annalisa Rojas. I just graduated this past December. I interned at USAA this past summer, so I started working there in January, so about 3 months for the job now. I was formerly the Rowdy Creators Director from the year 2022 to 2023.
Hey, I'm Zachariah Holland.
I am currently a junior software engineer for a company called Swivel here in San Antonio, related to a lot of fintech stuff. So we're software development, all that kind of stuff. Went from the intern course all the way to part-time to full-time. So I've been there for about 3 years now. Super exciting to be here, stay here in San Antonio. Always a big advocate. We have internships open. And then I was formerly the vice president of ACM, and then also the second technical chair right after Chris. And I think now, Gene didn't say it, but we are also the chair and board for ACM San Antonio as well. So if you have questions about after you graduate, come find us. And I'll pass it off to Janelle to call her out.
If she can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name's Janelle. I am currently an AI research scientist at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab, as well as a part-time master's student. So happy to field any questions there. But I previously was a junior officer for ACM, and then worked my way through vice president and then ACM president. So yeah, I will pass it off to Elijah.
Hello. Yeah, hi, I'm Elijah. I'm Elijah Moya. I am a junior software engineer at JP Morgan Chase up here in Plano, so Dallas area. I was a junior officer towards the start of COVID. I became membership officer and then eventually became president. So I was last year's president. So some of y'all may still remember me. I haven't been gone that long. But yeah, it's been nice. I enjoy my time up here in Dallas so far. I'll pass it to Kat
Hi everyone, I'm Kat or Catherine. I just started as a software developer here at Paycom in Dallas. You know, they do sponsor ACM, so maybe look at that. I was ACM's former secretary last year, and then I did an internship here in San Antonio, or there in San Antonio, at Southwest Research for about a year and a half. And that's about it. I'll pass it to Josh.
Hey y'all, my name's Josh. I graduated from UTSA just last year, where during my sophomore year, I was primarily involved with ACM-W and also involved with Code Quantum. But currently I'm a first year PhD student at Stanford School of Medicine, where I study biomedical data science. And I'll pass it on to Anna.
Hey y'all. I can't see any of you, but it's nice to meet you. I am an Android software engineer at HEB. I graduated from UTSA in May of 2021. Just like everybody else, I was also super involved with ACM and ACM-W and Rowdy Hacks too. So it's good to be back and hopefully can share some insightful tips and things for you when you go off post-graduation. So looking forward to your questions.
Okay, so this is, I guess, kind of to all of you. When do you think is the best time to start looking for career opportunities like jobs, internships, stuff like that?
As soon as possible. No, it might be a little bit scary to do it when you're a freshman coming into college, but at least go to the job fairs and stuff like that. Be thinking about it. Talk to other people that are further along in the process, the other students that are like actually already interning, stuff like that. And I think if not your freshman year, definitely start being more serious about it in your sophomore year, or yeah. So. Anybody else? I don't know. I'll give it back.
Yeah, does anyone on the Zoom have an answer to that question that they want to share, or?
I'll echo G. Other thing too, I will encourage you, if you don't want to intern, maybe you don't think you can get an internship as a freshman or a sophomore, there are programs to shout out JP Morgan Chase, and we have like sophomore specific programs that are specifically for sophomores. So I'm sure every company has something similar, so definitely take advantage of those.
All right, okay. And so our next question
for any of y'all. What was your favorite aspect of ACM or ACM-W, and what did you
doing the
enjoy
most
doing
while you were
most
here?
while you were here?
Does anyone wanna? All right.
Hey, Zach again. I got involved in a lot. I actually came back to college as a second choice. I had dropped out originally and came back, and I knew I needed to do more. I started over COVID. That's where I met Gene and like the original team of ACM when I first started. And I knew I needed to be involved. I just kind of made myself a parent and just did like some goofy things. You can probably find out my original application for being the technical officer on YouTube somewhere, but I won't share it with you. But ACM really started and gave me the power to figure out that I really liked leadership positions. I became, as I mentioned before, the vice president. I helped Ronnie and Rowdy Hacks through and through for all kinds of parts. I helped in my vice president position support Janelle when she was president. And I don't think I would have done that stuff originally if I wasn't in ACM. I don't think I would have known that I liked being a leader or liked helping people or making a statement of like, if one person benefits from the conversation or the entire event, it's benefits, right? It's still like you help someone. And I don't think anything outside of ACM could have given me that, at least at the time, right? And I've taken that into my job. Into my job, I've taken on leadership roles even as a junior engineer, and my company recognizes that. So things you learn now might not be as apparent that you're taking as benefit, or the skills you're learning now might not be as apparent, but you'll figure it out. you'll see the benefits of being involved and reaching out and starting early, once you get further into your career, especially because in the end, you get 20 years into your career and college doesn't really matter anymore, right? But I mean, if anybody else has anything else, anybody online?
Aspect of ACM or ACM-W, and what did you enjoy doing the most?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Zach said. Something I think that also I personally really enjoyed was in all of the like events and meetings and hackathons that I got to help put on. It was the best part to me was seeing like those opportunities that we could create for other students, whether that led to them getting a job or just like making connections with other students, making friends. I was just so amazed and so happy that just like the team and ACM could provide a lot of those opportunities for people. That is a huge thing for me because I'm so community focused and community driven that it really made an impact on me. And I kept going with it even after ACM. So that was probably my favorite part of being a part of ACM when I was in school.
Anyone else? There's a off that question.
How has your interest in computer science evolved since starting college? Do you like love your career like more or less now?
I think I can take a gander at this question. So when I first came to UTSA, I actually like started off as a chemical engineer, switched to cybersecurity, switched to environmental science, and fell back into statistics. But I feel like overall, I have always like wanted to learn how to code and program a little bit more. And as a current data scientist, I see computer science as a super necessary tool for my field and for the methods that we're trying to develop. And I guess currently I am enjoying it now, but I did go through a little bit of imposter syndrome when first starting in computer science. I felt like I wasn't really cut out. And I still have like a lot to learn yet. But if there's anyone like in there who's like interested in like trying computer science, like um when I was there, like ACM would have a bunch of like coding workshops or like intro to coding webinars that really helped me learn new things in the computer science field, and those are things that I still carry forward to this day. So currently I still like computer science and it's still at the center of everything that I do.
So I graduated high school in 2010, which was a long time ago. And whenever I went into college, I went for the understanding that I was going to go get a video game degree or something like that. That didn't work out. So I went through actually 4 different colleges, which is a long story in and of itself. But basically for me, computer science was a means to an end. I wouldn't say that I particularly do specifically computer science at my job. I would more focus on the fact that I'm a software engineer at that job. And just computer science just gave me all the tools that I needed to succeed. Whenever I started going to school, I was terrified of thinking about I'm going to fall into a boring job if I don't get a video game job, and that's just not true. So after reframing my mindset around computer science and getting to know what computer science was and the different avenues you could navigate in your professional career using that as a tool set, I think that's the importance for me. So.
Alright, cool. Anyone else? Y'all? Alright, cool. Okay, we're moving on to the next question. To branch off on more what you said about imposter syndrome, how did y'all deal with imposter syndrome while in university?
So I mean, I think that whenever you go through the interview process, that's one of the hardest processes to go through, whether you're a freshman, a sophomore, all the way to a senior. Just because sometimes you'll get hit with those questions where it's just oh, maybe I'm not really where I'm supposed to be. And even though I came in with like my associate's degree in science, I was essentially coming in as a freshman to the computer science world because I had put off some of those classes till I transferred to the university. So stepping into some of those interviews was just like, oh, you know, like, you seem like a bright person. Come back next year when you have some more CS classes under your belt. So I think a lot of it really builds with time, and then just like getting to build your network. So the people that you know, and then what you're doing outside of the classroom. A lot of times other kids from the same university are also applying for all the jobs that you're applying for. So what's going to set you apart from those? And that's doing hackathons, that's joining groups like ACM, that's getting involved in ways that you can say like, well, this really interested me, so I went and pursued that. And then that gives you a different edge to talk about in your interview. So getting involved, a lot of that kind of helps overcome imposter syndrome. At least it did for me. Anyone else on Zoom? You all good?
Yeah, I can chime in. So I would kind of echo what Annalisa was talking about. I think for me personally, the biggest way that I'm able to kind of overcome some of those feelings of imposter syndrome is through communication, you know, whether that's with your support system or your supervisor or your professors, because you might be in your own world thinking, you know, your own thoughts about something's really hard or I'm not cut out for this or things like that. But when you talk to more people in your network, such as the network that a school or a work or a club provides, then at least for me, it becomes more clear that you're not the only person feeling that way, or you're not the only person who has this problem, and that people are more willing to help than you might originally expect. So I would definitely emphasize, if you're feeling imposter syndrome, communicate, whether that's with your professors, whether that's with your network, professional or social, or with any manager or job.
What have you faced in your career? If anyone wants to answer that, if you're allowed to answer that.
Okay.
Technical or otherwise?
No, just any. Whichever your heart desires.
So, a little bit about Booz Allen Hamilton. Especially with the team that I work on, sometimes you're not going to be always working on what you think you're going to be working on. So one day, you're probably working on a VR project, especially if you work on the digital visualization team, which is the team that I work on. But other days, you might find that that project ran out of funds and you need to jump on some other billable work. So you're probably going to be switching technical stacks a lot if you're on our team. So one of the biggest challenges that I've had at work is having to context switch. Okay, here I was doing Unity work with C# and .NET. Now I'm doing JavaScript work with NPM and Node and all this other stuff, and I got to get really good at that. And then if that project dries up, I got to be able to context switch again and again and again. I've worked on several different projects. I've done Angular projects, React Native projects. I've worked with different headsets and different devices, and it's always learning. So the challenge, I would say, in my job at least, is trying to stay up to date with the packages that exist that are always changing. So.
I don't know if anybody was going to say anything online. Yeah. Go, Elijah. I'll answer later.
Yeah, so oh, I hear a little bit of feedback, but in terms of challenges, a lot of it, especially as a junior dev, when you as an intern and as a new junior developer, it can be very, very intimidating to talk to your supervisor, talk to higher ups on your team, especially when you feel well, this problem probably I can solve. This seems something like if I bring it to my manager or someone higher up in my team, they'd be like, why don't you know how to do this? But in the grand scheme of things, they know you're learning, they understand. They were all at one point, they were they knew nothing like you did. Everyone who started in the industry had at some point knew nothing, and everyone around them knew everything. So they want to be able to teach you. That's why they're there, is to help you teach, especially as a junior developer, like or an intern, like they're kind of there just to like, hey, like teach them what's going on, teach them about whether it's like tech stack or whether like, hey, like I'm facing this challenge just in like every day. Like I don't understand what these business words mean. Like I work in a bank. Like there's there's words there's it's all acronyms in banking. So there's just words I just don't know, and I have to be like, what does this word mean? They go, oh, it just means that. Don't worry about it. So definitely the biggest challenge and the biggest like as I've gotten better, as I've worked more, I've kind of sucked it up and be like, okay, in an hour, like if I don't solve this problem in an hour, I'm just gonna go to like Teams chat one of the people on my team to help me out.
I mean, I'll honestly echo what Elijah just said. I mean, you're taught to ask questions as you're getting your degree, or you're partnering with people on projects and stuff, especially in your higher course classes. It's the same thing at work. Don't sit stuck and suffer in silence. Is a big thing I hear a lot. If you suffer in silence, your whole team suffers, not just you. And that obviously doesn't provide value to yourself. That doesn't provide value to your team. So it's better to ask questions. It's better to reach out and ask for that help. Because I mean, in most cases, I would say in the majority of cases, when you especially join even a small to medium or large company, like it's a team effort, right? You're never truly by yourself unless you're at some kind of startup, right? Like, and they're expecting you to know everything. But if you get a startup job as a junior or an intern, congratulations, that's kind of cool. But the other part to that, additionally, outside of the work environment, my thing is was interviews, right? It was a challenge just like to morally like keep doing it, or like to keep applying and keep updating your resume, to keep asking questions about your resume. Ask your friends, ask your family, ask your LinkedIn network if you've started that yet. Definitely start a LinkedIn network, and just ask them to look at your resume. It could be as far as a spelling mistake. It could be, asking about your skills, or, maybe they'll close enough to you and they'll do a little mock interview with you, whether or not it's just a culture asking you about the skills, right? Having that network, and that's kind of what I'm pointing out here, is having that network is going to support you through some of these troubling times. And I say troubling it lightheartedly. Troubling is difficult. Troubling is, a challenge. But I mean, as you hear, especially in school, and I think UTSA kind of promotes it, you're a scientist, and scientists solve problems, right? And it's hard to figure that out until you start taking it to heart and then you ask questions, because how do you solve a problem? And it's not by yourself most of the time. So, but definitely ask questions.
All right, okay. Now we're gonna move on to the next question. What helped the most with internship applications? What skills are needed, and what can I do to stand out?
Okay, live and people person that I can't see. Just a blank screen for me. But the soft skills really help. Like being sociable, being likable, that is what will push your application to the top of the pile. I will say how I got my job is I professionally talked up to the recruiter, and she really liked me, and she really helped me along in the interview process. She's like, yeah, I put you with this person because they're gonna love you. So I was like, oh, perfect. So just be personable, try and be likable, make them laugh, because that's how you're gonna stand out.
I'm just gonna kind of reiterate one of my points earlier, but like really getting involved, that's gonna give you a lot to talk about in your interviews. I think my last year at UTSA, I attended 9 hackathons. And we took home titles, I want to say like 6 times. So that gives you a lot to talk about in your interviews. Just because when you can talk about those types of experiences, you can say like, well, this company had this type of problem statement, and I applied this type of like innovative solution to it. This is what my team did. This is kind of some of the challenges that we ran into. This is how we overcame that. And so it shows that you can collaborate with other people. It shows that you can think outside the box, and then it can show that like other people have recognized you for that. So if you're able to do that, that can help you immensely. I owe a lot of it to Janelle because she helped me at my first one, and that's essentially kind of what started the frenzy. So don't be afraid to talk to some people outside of your network, some of the seniors, because they're always very friendly, especially the ones in ACM.
Can you repeat the question real quick again?
What can you do to stand out in interviews?
Stand out in interviews. Yeah, okay. Again, to reiterate what both of y'all have said at this point, right, is like getting involved is extra and kind of sweet talking yourself, right? I mean, an interview is to sell yourself, right? Outside of that, you know, big things are projects. Big things are adding more to your resume. But I really like the point Annalisa just made. It was like working with projects and creating things, right? And really what I think helped me personally stand out when I went through my few rounds of interviews was being able to talk about specifically what I learned, right? And although maybe at some hackathons I didn't win anything, right? Like whether or not it was a side challenge or the main track or something like that, being able to list it on your resume, right? And specifically talk about what you learned from that project is more insightful than I just built an app, you know? I built, you know, a plugin. Okay, well, what'd you learn from the plugin? Like, I might go to your GitHub repo and you have 10 plugins that you built. You already know how to do that. What was unique about this one, right? Being able to talk about those unique things and those unique circumstances that you put yourself into. You know, I'll give an example. Like, I got asked, you know, like about the websites I was building when I was still, you know, a sophomore, and even the recruiter and, you know, some of the technical managers that I was talking to were like, you know, so what's the purpose of, like, you know, developing this app that I built for my resume like website? And I was like, literally, I was figuring out Z indexing and CSS. And to understand those things, and, you know, maybe some of y'all don't know what that is, but it's understanding different pieces and more, becoming more in-depthly knowledge about things. And if you can explain those things more in depth rather than just surface level, you'll definitely earn some brownie points there from talking technical or talking to your recruiter or wherever you might be in the stage of interviews.
Go to resume workshops. That's all I gotta say.
All right, okay.
My turn. All right, next question. What does your average workday look like, and how is your work-life balance?
Can you repeat that question?
What does your average workday look like, and how would you describe your work-life balance?
Yes. I can answer that. Work-life balance, at least. So specifically, in Chase, I work in JP Morgan. I work in billing, which is, at least from what I can tell from my team, is very much a how do I put it? It's very fast turnaround for some stories and apps, stuff we have to work on. But even with that, I will say work-life balance is, at least for the current moment, has been good. At least as a junior, like, you're not expected to be on a lot of like the prod support stuff. But overall work-life balance, just be sure to separate the like work and like know when, like, okay, I'm 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever you're working for your work hours. Like, this is purely your work hours. Work from home is really hard sometimes, especially when you have all the distractions around you. So early on, setting the standards of, like, if I'm working from home, like, find a different area to work from than what you usually have, like, your leisure time, is really important to really separate that work-life balance.
Second that. So lately, I've been waking up at around 6 a.m., getting into work around 7, having about 2 hours for creative work, in terms of like coming up with solutions. And then when 9 o'clock hits, that's where our stand-up is for my team. So I'll do stand-up, and then after that, it's either I continue to work on whatever I was working on before, or I work on something else, or I help out anybody that had any blockers. I'm the technical lead on the project that I'm currently supporting, so a lot of the responsibility comes through me. So anytime anybody has any blockers or anything like that, and then it'll be either meetings or a free time. If it's free time, I'm like, thank God. So I can work on what I need to work on, but sometimes meetings do get in the way, and then I try to end my day around 3 o'clock. And it is very important to, I think, to set up that time frame. with my specific client, it's not always realistic to end at 3 because sometimes I have to do after hours redeploys of certain services that we have through AWS. But other than that, if I know I'm going to be having time that I need to do an after hours redeploy, I'll get off like an hour earlier or something like that. And then it's important to also at Booz Allen anyway, it's important to tell them tell your team if you're getting off, an hour early or anything like that, so that way they know you're not going to be there. But at the same time, Booz Allen is extremely flexible with work-life balance. Like, we're not required to go into the office. We can if we want. So that really helps a lot. If you are going to be working from home, I heavily advise to work somewhere that's not your bedroom. Because it can be stressful to be stuck in your bedroom all day and just like, I woke up, I got to work, I'm in the same room, now I'm going to sleep in the same room. So definitely try to stay away from that. If you can possibly like set up a tiny little office somewhere, apartments aren't always ideal for that kind of work, but you gotta encapsulate it, you gotta compartmentalize the work so that way it doesn't consume you at all times.
Any more from anyone on Zoom? Or all right. Okay. So, what minor or concentration did you have, if any? Did it affect your job opportunities, or like what made you choose that?
I'll be honest, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'll start off like that. I knew I wanted to become a computer scientist. I knew I wanted to create things. I knew I needed a degree for myself to figure things out. But overall, I honestly took the time to take the intro to all of the concentrations that UTSA had, and that's the data science, cyber, software engineering, and I missed one. Cloud and security systems. Yeah. I took all 4 of those. They were all great. I think it was great to learn about, the cloud information stuff. It was great to learn a little bit into data science. It was great to learn about, even the amount of paperwork cybersecurity people do. And then the intro to the software engineering classes. I think overall, from like my hackathon experiences and my like internships and stuff like that, the software engineering one stuck with me most importantly. I think it's just because it satisfied that little bit of creativity. I'm not saying the other ones couldn't, right? I think there's little pieces for every concentration or whichever you might take your degree towards. And it just kind of satisfied that need, right? It satisfied me to say I wanted to create things. It kind of added a little bit to my title. It added it to my resume. But will I say it holistically gave me better opportunities for like employment or like job interviews? I wouldn't say so. Personally, I think it's a benefit to have it on there. But I mean, in the end, it's just, I have my degree that says I graduated with a BS in computer science, right? And with that comes the knowledge, with that comes the foundations. And anything else on that is just like sprinkling stuff. And outside of that, it's things I learn outside of the class, right? To take those additional classes, just to reiterate, were very helpful for me in the beginning. But you definitely learn a lot more outside of the classroom, I'll tell you that. So.
Would anyone on Zoom like to say anything about that?
I have a concentration in data science and a minor in math. And I would definitely advise, if you're interested in math or AI or data science, definitely look into some statistics and math. The math minor and the statistics classes that I took in undergrad, in addition to my computer science degree, is what really allows me to work on more research projects now, because it's not just enough to be able to code. You have to understand the algorithms behind it as well. And so that is something that I'm really grateful that I did. And I would highly encourage you, if you're interested in artificial intelligence or data science, to look into statistics classes and look into math classes as well. I think you will be very happy that you did if you look beyond the required math courses for computer science.
Okay. What personal project have you worked on or created that have helped with your CS journey or helped you like score an internship or a job? If anyone wants to answer that.
The best ones that I've worked on that have helped me with my interviews have been anything that I've done at a hackathon because it's sad, but they're the most like well-rounded projects that I've done because not only have I worked on them, but they're documented on DevPost. So I can very easily put that on my resume and be like, hey, this is what I did. Here's a video that shows, what it looks like and everything. Personal projects are a lot more like if you go to my GitHub, you'll see like 45 different failed projects that don't go anywhere. I used to just get an understanding of how something worked, and that's valuable too. So I don't think I could ever pin it down to one specific project, but there are almost every single hackathon I went to, I did some sort of VR or AR thing, and that really helps with getting onto my current team that I'm on. So
I'll reiterate kind of what I was saying in my point before, and to extend off what Gene said. I made projects and I create projects and I learned from projects to when I got to my
But I have stuff that I can show for, and I have stuff I can talk about. And I think that's all that really matters. And I think that's again my point of like I got into software engineering. I like the things that I could create, and that comes from my personal projects. So. I don't know if they need the question repeated or not.
Does anyone on Zoom want to hear the question again? Or y'all good?
Yeah, I think I can go for this one. So as a current biomedical data scientist, I think that the projects that have really helped me develop a lot of the skills that I have been through projects that I found very interesting. So a few summers ago, I was able to work with this data set through a hospital setting through an internship where I was able to analyze metabolomic data sets and omics data sets that, are basically data sets that tell you a lot about your human body. And using these data sets, I was able to create machine learning models to try and predict the patients who would pass away and survive within a span of 5 years. I've also been able to work with data sets that involve with electronic health records. I'm currently working with climate data and epidemiology data. And I think just having the experience of working through various different projects, various different data sets can really help you develop an arsenal of skill sets that you can bring to the table in the future. And I think as computer scientists and as data scientists, or some data scientists in the room, I think you have a lot of the fundamentals to go on into like any sort of field that you want to go to, but you really need to hone in on your basics that you have, and that way you can continue developing your skill set. So I guess overall, it's not just one project that has helped me get to where I'm at today, but multiple projects that revolve around different things and can help you develop your tool set.
Cool. Okay, so now we're gonna open up questions to the floor. So if anyone has any questions, like feel free to chime in, or anyone on the live stream as well, just put it in the chat,
Thank you to all the panelists that came today, taking time out of your day and coming to talk to us. It's really great to see the past ACM community coming back to the current. speaking of community, what are some of the ways that you can or you could become involved with something similar after you graduate? You know, this is a student org currently, but what's available after graduation?
Yeah, I like I said in kind of my prelude, I'm very interested in community and leadership, and I've pretty much delved into it, kind of hinted at it when I was introducing myself. But currently, I am the chair of ACM San Antonio. We officially founded back in January. Gene is my co-chair, and as some of y'all might know, Mark Robinson is our treasurer currently, and we're working on putting on events. And that's kind of something, you know, you can definitely do. You're familiar with ACM. I could be familiar with it once you graduate, maybe you stay local to San Antonio. But don't let that be your only door. There are so many organizations, there's so many efforts, there's so many things happening in San Antonio, and probably wherever you might move to eventually. Things like that to get involved in is like use social media. Like there's meetup.com, there's alumni.com now. There's if anybody here even has a Facebook, there's things on there. And there's just plenty of things out there. So definitely, you know, follow the right accounts, you know, reach out to people in your community. Go where like the startups are happening. They're constantly building, you know, nonprofits and communities and, you know, meetup groups. There's a group here in San Antonio called the Data Nuts. They talk about data science, and when you're 21, you can go hang out with them because they meet at a bar every time. But you know, that's things that are available for you after you finish school, right? If data science is your calling and passion, and you want to learn more, and you want to network with other data scientists, that's available. And you know, to promote self again a little bit, like similar vibes, right? Like we want to have technology conversations and have networking, and you know, if you're still trying to find a job, like things like this will be where you will benefit, is coming and having these conversations with people you don't know, people who are also interested in the same thing you're in. And not to blabber on much more, but there's plenty of communities out there. If you have any conversations or questions about it, totally reach out to me after this. So.
To kind of add to what Zach was saying, sometimes you could find those sorts of groups in your workplace, or if they don't exist, you could bring it up to a supervisor and talk about it, about creating one. So for instance, at my work, we have AWIT, which is APL Women in Technology, which is an affinity group for women in tech. We actually have a bunch of meetings each month, so tech talks, socials, just like ACM-W does. And it really kind of fills that in the professional setting as well. So I would really encourage you, if there's something that you see missing, to ask about it, because I wouldn't have known about AWIT had I not asked my supervisor what sort of groups were available. And it can go beyond gender into other aspects of identity as well. We have a Hispanic culture affinity group, and we have an African culture affinity group. So I would really encourage you to kind of push the envelope if you're not seeing that at your workplace, or outside, and there's something that you want to bring there. I found, at least at my workplace, they're very accommodating to that and very supportive of affinity groups, because a lot of these people were once in college as well and had their favorite club. So yeah, I would encourage you to look inside the workplace as well.
Actually, just reminded me, yeah, some of the places that you work, they have those really great work groups to get involved in, but also some of them might even have hackathons, which I thought was really surprising. At USAA, they're doing something right now with like, I don't know how to check that, but they're doing something with artificial intelligence. So they're doing like an open call for employees of all types of pathways to come and just like come together with other employees, put together an idea of like what they want to make. So yeah, somebody randomly saw me in the hallway, realized that I was a part of ACM, and they're like, hey, do you want to be on my team? So don't be afraid to network within your work group and take advantage of those different opportunities.
All right, all right. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Anyone in the chat, in the live stream as well?
Open book.
Yeah.
You have to do whatever you want.
Anything, anything.
Anyways, what is like a big unforeseen pitfall that you guys like your post-collegiate careers, what's one pitfall that you would, I guess, tell us so we don't potentially make that same pitfall? It's kind of hard, but it's like, yeah.
But it's kind of like pre-post.
Yeah.
I think a lot of recruiters will come through UTSA and they'll be like, oh, like we have such a wonderful company, you should work for us, we have all these benefits. But like before you make that decision, don't be afraid to ask them the hard questions. This brings to mind one specific incident, but a recruiter came to UTSA and they asked them, they gave their whole spiel and presentation. But they didn't want to talk about like, oh, like what salary range you should expect or what you would be starting at. It was very hidden. It's like, well, once you go through the process, then we can talk about that. So you'll notice a lot of the bigger companies don't have anything to hide. So there's certain things that I don't jive with, and that's one of them, being upfront, to jump through hoops there. Another one being like, what your work-life balance looks like. So like, how much PTO are you getting? Do they expect you to work those 60 hours a week? Are you getting salaried? Is it always going to be those 60-hour work weeks? And then also like, what does I guess like continuing with education look like? So that's something that I really want to pursue, and I want a company that's going to invest in that. So shout out to USAA, they give you like $10,000 a year. So the company that this recruiter was talking about, they're like, well, we don't offer any type of assistance because we want you to focus on work. And it's like, oh, well, I don't work there 24/7. So just be prepared to ask those questions about like what you value before you get to that post-education.
Gotcha.
Oh, you want to go, Elijah?
Kat, you can go, Kat.
I just want to add on a little bit to what Annalisa just said. Talk about your salary with like your coworkers, your peers, because a situation happened between me and a couple other people where someone was paid significantly more, and it encouraged them to go ask for more, because know your worth and you deserve to be paid what you're worth. So just, always keep that in mind.
Yes. As well with what Annalisa said too, 100% please read your offer letter. It's like 1 million pages of like stuff you probably don't fully understand. Find like a parent or like even to give it to like one of your other friends, like just look over it all together. Like there's some stuff in there, like it's important to understand, like I think what Annalisa said, like understand how much PTO you get, like how all that stuff works before you really like go with that company, because some of that stuff could like later on down the line, like I know some people at other companies that have been like, well, like I don't really get the greatest health insurance and I wish I had better health insurance. So like just keep that in mind, and it can definitely, if you don't plan for it, kind of come back and bite you.
Yeah, I feel like one of the pitfalls that I faced, a little different to what we were talking about just now, but was once again a little bit of imposter syndrome. Once again, like when I first started college, like before going to college, I knew that I wanted to study statistics, but by looking at the coursework, I saw that calculus 1, 2, and 3 were required, and in my head, I was like, well, your boy's bad at math, like I can't do that. But the more bio classes that I started taking, the more statistics that we were using in class, and the more that I started to realize that I really, really like this field. And it took me like a whole year until I finally made the decision that, hey, like I really want to study statistics. And it wasn't until I first took those initial steps, signed up for my first calculus class, and like really like spent a lot of time in tutoring sessions that I guess I started to like see myself more as a, I guess, statistician. And as a result of all of that, if I wouldn't have made that decision of like switching my degree to study statistics or to learn a little bit more computer science, I honestly don't think I'd be in the position where I am today. So I think sometimes you just have to, like things are scary, things are different. But I think that you have to sometimes try to set those fears aside and try to challenge yourself to learn new things, and because you'll never know where you'll end up. Like I didn't think I'd be pursuing a PhD like when I first started grad school, and here we are. So little like much more less in like biomedical data science, where it's like computer science and statistics and bio.
So a couple things. First of all, if you're going to work for a startup right out of college, learn everything you can about their financial situation, because they will probably let you down like they did me. No, I work for a company called Metacognition, which some of you might know is John Quarles' company. If you ever go to his class, he may talk about it. But they had some issues with financial stuff about a year into that job, and they had to let one of their developers go, and I was the one that got axed, and I had just moved out of state. And they were like, yeah, it's not anything performance wise, it's just we don't have any money to support this position. It's like, okay, I get it. So understanding that a startup, while it may look lucrative and they may seem like they're doing well on the surface, some things may come up and you need to reconsider what you had considered before. So, however, if it wasn't for that, I would have gotten hired full time by Zell, so I'm kind of great at that being let go. And then the other thing is when you're in a bigger company, so say somewhere significantly larger than a startup, which is like maybe 10 people, to Buzan, which is like 30,000 people across the globe, find a mentor. And I don't just mean a mentor in your technical expertise. I'm talking about like a mentor in the business that you're involved in, and understand how that company works, because without that, you're not going to have enough insight to know how to go up the ladder. So, yeah, I'm a good one. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I actually returned back to college in 2019. I'd originally tried for about a year and a half, and then I dropped out, and I was out for about 3 years. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to like learn, I guess you could say. I coasted through high school. I'll be upfront about that. I'm pretty open about that. And then I got to my first year of college after I'd been out of high school for like a year, and I was like, man, I'll resonate with Josh here. Math is hard. I had zero clue what calculus was really supposed to be, and it just wasn't sticking. At the same time, I took on a full-time job. I had never done that before in my life. I was 19 years old and trying to figure things out, like probably most of y'all are right now too. But in the end, when I decided I really wanted to come back to school and really needed to set myself apart, I told myself, and it sounds goofy, and some people say it's not, but I had to come back to school to figure out how to learn. And I say, you need to learn how to learn. And learning how to study is in itself, it's difficult. But if you can figure out the way that you retain knowledge, or you create things or remember things, you will save yourself so much headache. And for the industry you're going into, it's a very important skill to have, because you need to continuously learn. You need to continuously absorb knowledge. You need to continuously find new sources for yourself. And once you kind of figure that out, I'm not saying it's going to be easy sailing, but it's a lot easier than it is if you're just trying to brute force everything. That's really all I have to say about it. But I say learn to learn. It's hard to figure out. Yeah, good question.
All right, so that was all of our questions. Want to give a big thank you to our panelists. They did great. They're awesome. Thank you for coming. Yes. That's all we got.
If anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm available. I'll post it
Absolutely.
somewhere. I don't know where, but I'll post it somewhere.
Walk me out.